I was thinking, we didn't get to have Mother's Day collectively last year, and so we missed an opportunity to talk about how very strange motherhood looked in the past 24 months or so, at least the last 12 months, at least leading up to it. That motherhood under the pandemic just took on a different form, and I'm so thankful the internet captured it so we could remember what it was like, or you could remember what it was like to be a mother under strange circumstances. I love this mother was paying her children for their different chores, and she paid them in Monopoly money. That was a mother for the win right there. I like this one here about a mother who tried to have a moment of silence, and there it was. That's like a horror film right there. The fingers on the glass. You're not going anywhere. Not under this circumstance. Maybe some of you live that. You know, I like this one here. When you catch your kids eating a family-sized bag of tortilla chips for breakfast and you realize you don't have to cook, that's all right under the pandemic. They're getting fed. That's all right. And of course, my favorite is this little letter from Ben, who said he was homeschooled. It says, it's not going good. My mom's getting stressed out. My mom's getting really confused. We took a break so my mom can figure this stuff out. And I'm telling you, it's not going good. Sometimes mom need a little help, even under pandemics. Now, I appreciate something, and I know you know this to be true. Let's just be honest for a minute today. This day means a lot of different things for this church family, and we know that. Some of you, this is a really special day, and we rejoice with you, and we honor you. We're thankful. This is a God-given role for moms. We didn't make that up. That's God-given, and we're thankful for God creating the role of mothers, and we honor you this day. For some of you, you didn't have a good mother in the home. You didn't have a godly mother in the home. Maybe you had a mother, but it wasn't a God-fearing mother, and this day brings a lot of pain. Just thinking back through those times and those memories, and we mourn with you. And there are some, and our mothers that are no longer with us. They've gone on, and they've been to meet the Lord, and we grieve with you, realizing that there's an absence. There's a phone call that's not going to be made today. There's a voice you're not going to hear today, and we grieve with you. There's a lot of emotions that come with this day, and we understand that. I think if there's one thing we can stand firm on together, it's this, and that is praise the Lord and thank God for our godly mothers. There's an irreplaceable role in every home that God has given through the role of a mother who fears the Lord. And today, I want to look at two examples. I think these are unique and special examples in how they tend to mirror one another, and they point us to a principle and parenthood. I'll explain it a little further once we get it done, but I want to show you two examples of two mothers and a principle that is illustrated through a choice they had to make. We're in 1 Samuel chapter 1 for our first example. In 1 Samuel chapter 1, we find the story of Hannah, who was unable to have a baby. And so she prayed to the Lord diligently for the Lord to bless her with children, and she made it clear in 1 Samuel chapter 1. 1 Samuel chapter 1. We are looking here in 1 Samuel chapter 1. It says in verse 11, she made a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your maidservant and remember me and not forget your maidservant, but will give your maidservant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life. She made a prayer. She made a promise. God, if you will bless me, if you will give me a child, I will give him in return to you. And sure enough, the Lord blessed her with a son in verse 20, and she named him Samuel. And so it says in verse 22 that Hannah did not go up with her husband to offer the offering to the Lord. It says, I will not go up until the child is weaned, and I will bring him that he may appear before the Lord and stay there forever. And so her husband Elkanah said to her, do what seems best to you. Remain until you have weaned him. Only may the Lord confirm his word. So the woman remained and nursed her son until she weaned him. Now, when she had weaned him, she took him up with her with a 3-year-old bull and 1 ephah of flour and a jug of wine, and brought them to the house of the Lord in Shiloh, although the child was young. Then they slaughtered the bull and brought the boy to Eli. She said, Oh, my Lord, as your soul lives, my Lord, I am the woman who stood here beside you praying to the Lord. For this boy I prayed, and the Lord has given me my petition which I asked of him. So I have also dedicated him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he is dedicated to the Lord. And he worshiped the Lord there. I don't know how long that process of weaning was. We do know that it says he was still young. There's some who assume that he was 3 years old because the age of the sacrifice was 3 years. Maybe 1 year for each year of this boy's life. However old it was, you have to imagine that would have been a long, hard walk all the way to Shiloh, taking your little boy realizing that's going to be a one-way, alone trip home. But you have to also realize in her situation, the Lord blessed her. The Lord heard her prayer, and He gave her something that so many of you have shared and experienced for yourselves. He gave her a son. And this son was going to be used in one of the most honorable, incredible ways, serving God and serving God's people. There had to have been something so rewarding and so fulfilling, knowing that her son, who the Lord gave, would be used in such amazing and powerful ways. Now, the other example in Exodus 2 is very similar, but it's in a darker context, because in Exodus 2, the people of God are enslaved by the Egyptians, and they're greatly mistreated by Pharaoh. And Pharaoh made it his aim to oppress the people, to keep them from growing so he could continue his dominance over the land. And so he made the command to have all the Hebrew boys thrown into the Nile River. And there, in the midst of all that conflict, enters Moses. Moses on the scene, the sweet baby boy. And all his mother did everything to keep him quiet, to keep him safe. But when she found herself at the intersection between danger and desperation, she had to make a choice. And so she placed, through faith, that baby in that basket, hoping and trusting that she could keep him safe until the day came she could take him out. But by providence and the care of God, of all people who could have found that basket, here comes Pharaoh's daughter. And she finds the basket, and out of depth of compassion in her heart, she favors this child and longs to keep it. And so by God's care and providence, Moses' sister comes into the scene. And it says in Exodus chapter 2 and verse 7, his sister said to Pharaoh, "Shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you?" Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go ahead." So the girl went and called the child's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him. The child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter and became her son. She named him Moses and said, "Because I drew him out of the water." Again, I don't know. I don't know how long that period of weaning and raising was. I don't know if we're talking years or multiple years, but we know it was either long enough to instill certain things in his mind, or there was a connection, a continual connection to his parenthood, because he was able to know, to draw some powerful conclusions in his adulthood, when it says in Hebrews 11 and verse 24 that by faith Moses, when he was grown up, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to be mistreated with the people of God than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. He considered the reproach of Christ greater wealth than the treasures of Egypt, for he was looking to the reward. Oh, he knew some amazing things. He was raised right from the start. But again, you got to put yourselves in the sandals of this amazing woman who made a choice. And how precious to have Pharaoh's daughter ask, "Would you mind weaning this child?" And you're thinking, absolutely, no question, of course I will wean this child. But you know, the day is coming, and what a difficult day it would have been to take your baby, to take your little boy, and to hand him off knowing that he's going to spend the rest of his life under a different roof, in a different home. And yet, at the same time, what a satisfying joy realizing that God let this boy live. And whatever it is that he does, whoever it is that he becomes, will be by the goodness and the favor of God. Now, I understand both of these situations are unique, one of which is very extreme. They're not our circumstances today. But I believe there's a principle that we find underneath, within these two examples, that exists as a purpose in parenthood. The principle is this: we raise our children to give our children. God gives us our children. They are a gift from the Lord, and we raise them. And we raise them as entrusted stewards of an amazing gift. But ultimately, our purpose as raising these children is to raise them to one day give them away. And mothers, you play such a crucial and important role in this. And your care and your teaching and your example and your kindness and the way that you show God's love and existence through your home, you play such an important part in the process of preparing your children for the future roles and relationships that they are going to fill. So today I just want to walk through this analogy with you of raising our children to one day give our children. I want you to see what I mean by that and see some different ways that we give our children back from those from the one whom we have received them. And I want to draw some specific application for our mothers. So I want to start with this. We raise our children to give them to the Lord. That's right out of Samuel's story. We raise our children to give them back to the Lord. And so before our children are even born, before they even take their first breath, we as godly parents know that we're not just going to raise our kids to know about God, we're going to raise them so that they so know God and so love God that they will give their lives completely and totally to God. And so as we mentioned from Psalm 127 verse 3, children are a gift of the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. We have been given an amazing and incredible gift through every child that has entered into this existence. And that gift comes with a heavy responsibility that we entrust ourselves and our lives and our actions to be good stewards of this amazing gift. Now, there's a challenge for us, and I mean like us here, sitting here today. If you're listening to me, if you can see me today, there's a challenge for us parents. I was trying to think about our youngest member, and I may be really off on this, and so if I miss it, please don't be insulted. Just realize my understanding of this is very limited. I think Rory is our youngest member, so I want you to think about Rory for a minute. Rory Cupeoli. By the time Rory gets to age 18, he will have listened to 9,000 sermons, sung 5,000 hymns, and gone through somewhere around 70 to 72 quarters of Bible classes. Isn't that amazing? 9,000 sermons. Get ready, Rory. 70 Bible classes. In one sense, we think, what a blessing, what a blessing, what an abundance of teaching and example and time with God. But therein is the challenge, my brethren, is that like Rory, we are raising children who are very familiar with the church, very familiar with God, very familiar with His Word. And that is a blessing, but the challenge is this. We're not raising children to be merely members of a church. We're raising children to be disciples of the King. We don't want our children raised so that they give God their Sundays and their Wednesdays. We want to raise our children that they give their lives to King Jesus. And that is the challenge. How can we instill these truths? Not that they know this truth, but that they know the author of the truth, that they know God. I want you to go with me. Go back to Hebrews chapter 11. I want you to see it in your text. There's a few things that Moses knew from the very beginning. From the very beginning. Some truths that his family instilled in his life. And I want to talk for a minute. Mothers, there are some truths that you can instill in your children's lives. You can write them on their hearts. But let me say that again. I'm not saying parents, mothers. Mothers, there are some truths that you can write on your children's hearts that will stay with them the rest of their lives. Because here's what Moses knew. He knew it as a young person. He knew it as an older person. He knew it, number one, Moses never forgot who he was. In verse 24, by faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He knew who he was. It was not a question. I'm in Egypt, but I'm not an Egyptian. I am in Pharaoh's house, but I am not of Pharaoh's likeness. I never forgot who he was. And that's such an important point for us. That our children, as they're wrestling with their identity of who I am and what I'm going to become, they wrestle with their interests and their passions and their talents, and they're trying to figure out how they fit into this life, to write on their hearts the bedrock truth that never changes, and that is you are made special by your God. He knit and He wove every single one of us, and He made you. From head to toe, from your talent and your abilities to the way that you look, your size and your shape, God made you. You are special, made by God. And then to know that no matter what group you may fit in or not fit in, whatever peers you may surround yourself in or not, to always know you wear a name. And it's not your first name, that's given by us, but you wear our name. You are part of this family, and you are always, always loved. I will always be your mother, and you will never, never run so far from my love. So that no matter where you go or what you do or what you accomplish in this life, I want you to remember who you are. You are mine. You are my son, and you are greatly loved, and you are made special by God. Moses never forgot that. He never forgot who he belonged to in verse 25. He chose rather to endure ill treatment with the people of God than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sins. He didn't forget that. He didn't forget that even though there were some things that were his right as an heir to the throne, as a son of Pharaoh, he never forgot that he belonged to a higher and a greater calling, and that's all of us. We teach our children, yes, you can enjoy life, and you can enjoy all the good things that God has given you to enjoy here in life, friends and talents and abilities and entertainment to our life's content. But as Solomon said, rejoice, young man, during your childhood, and let your heart be pleasant during the days of your young manhood, and follow the impulses of your heart and the desires of your eyes, and know yet that God will bring you to judgment for all these things. In other words, if we want our children to remember anything, mothers, know who you are and know whose you are. You belong to God. You were made on purpose, for a purpose. You were here for a reason. And so you can have fun. You can pursue great pursuits. But more important than if you go to college and where you go to college and what degree you will get, more important than if you get married and getting married and having kids, the most important thing is that you live to honor your God. You were here on purpose. You remember who you are. And then he remembered what mattered the most. Because when offered the great treasures, the gifts of Egypt themselves, the pleasures that would come from a life of sin, he was willing to let it go because he was looking for something greater promised in God. And mothers, if there's something you can help your children to see, is that there is nothing the world could possibly offer our children that could compare to what they have promised in Jesus. Not a thing. The reason I say mothers, that you are the ones who can teach this so convincingly, that you can write this so compassionately on the heart of your children is this. I think about what was said of Timothy, that there was something that existed in his grandmother and something that existed in his mother that so affected that young man that it captured him completely, that he knew who he was. In a world so confused about this new news, this new way, this new Lord, he knew who he was. He knew who he belonged to, and he knew what mattered the most because those things were written on his mother's heart. And your children are going to see it before they will hear it out of you. That they will see God's mothers who know who they are. That you are made by God just as God designed you. And that you belong to Him. You are daughters of the King. And you know what matters the most. And it's not grades. It's not clean houses. It's not a perfect lifestyle. What matters the most is pleasing God here and living with Him there. And that is what matters the most. I was thinking, we watched this the other day, not long ago at home. I love the scene in the Disney movie Tarzan where that young boy is so confused about everything, rightly so. He's being raised by some monkeys. And so some of them were talking about how he just doesn't fit in. He doesn't look like you. He doesn't act like you. And so he went back so angry and confused, not sure about anything, when here comes Mother. And Mother picks him up and scoops him and pulls him in, and she presses him against her chest. Just close enough and hard enough for him to hear the heart. And she says, you and I, we have the same heart. Mothers, I think if there's anyone gifted, perfect for the moment, that when our children seem so confused because the world says, you just don't fit in here. You don't look like us. You don't speak like us. You don't act like us. You don't dress like us. And they come home so confused thinking, I don't know who I am. I don't know what's right. To pull them in so tenderly and to remind them of things that you've told them all along, but to remind them, we have the same heart. We have the same goal. You may not look like everyone else, but you look like your mother, and we're trying everything to look like our God. Mothers can raise their children to give them to the Lord because they have given themselves to the Lord first. We raise our children to give them in marriage. Ultimately, for the majority of our children here, many of them will make the commitment one day to step into the marital relationship. Now, not everyone will. Not every one of our children will get married, and we need to communicate as parents that it's okay to not get married. That just because you are not married, that you don't meet that one person, that you don't make this commitment in your life, that doesn't mean that you can't live a life that's pleasing to God, that you can't find satisfaction and fulfillment. That's just not true. That whether you are married or single, your life is not wrapped up in your marital status. That your life's fulfillment and satisfaction is wrapped up in God, ultimately. But there are many of our young people who will make this decision one day, and they will choose to give their life to another. They will do what was said in Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, that they will leave father and mother and hold fast to themselves, the man to his wife, and they will become one flesh. And so when thinking about this, that one day our children will be given in marriage, there's a lot that could be done today to prepare our children for marriage. And I know what you're thinking, because I have one in the pew, and I know I'm saying it. She's never going to get married. I've got that. I know that. I'm not so ignorant to believe that. I know it. But I also know that if I want her to be married one day, or maybe the better way of saying it this, if she plans to be married one day, maybe that's the better way of saying it. If she plans to be married one day, there's some things that can be done today, even today, that can make a big difference for when that day comes. Moms, you can play such an important role in that, such a huge role in that. You know what moms teach children about marriage? Moms teach children that love is not the same as attraction. It's not the warm feelings inside. It's not that bubbling in the tummy. It's not the lust that maybe began because someone looks real good. Love is a conscious act of a will. God's love is selfless and sacrificial, and it puts the needs of others before its own. We know love, real love, not Disney love, not pretend love. We know real love by this, that He laid down His life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brethren. And so if we say you love your mate, or you promise to love one another, we're not saying I promise to feel good about you. I'm promising to be attracted to you. We're saying I promise to put you first. And that is what you are teaching through marriage. It's that marriage is not about what you can get. It's about what you can give. It's not about what you receive. It's about what you bring to it. Which means this, and this is where mothers can show it, that when perhaps the attraction wanes, that when the affection becomes cold, that when there is no money in the bank account and times are hard and health is scarce and when things get bad, when storms arise, that I still love you and I still care for you and I still mean what I said all those years ago, that I do and I still do and I always will do, that my love for you is not conditioned upon our condition today, that my love for you is until death, until we part. And so I will be kind to you, and I will serve you, and I will be all that it is that I can be for you, to help you be who God made you to be as a husband, because I promise to love you. Mothers, you can communicate that. Mothers, you can communicate more than fathers what it means to treat women. That women are worthy of dignity and respect. That women are treasures made by God, and they are to be handled carefully. You treat your boys how to speak to women and about women. That ugly label of locker room talk isn't done at home, isn't allowed at home. That we speak well about women, and they will treat you with dignity and respect as a treasure, as a precious gift from God. That they will learn to protect you. That they will learn to stand up for you. So that one day when they are given the gift of a precious woman to stand by their side, that they will care for them and protect them and honor them and treasure them as they deserve. And you teach your daughters a lot about love. You teach your daughters what it means to love a man, what it means to be selfless. You teach your daughters what it means to be women of faith, women who are serious about their walk in God, women who are serious about their love for the Lord. You teach your daughters what it means to carry beauty well. That beauty is a gift from God, and it's not to be wielded as a weapon. It's not used as a tool to get what you want. But beauty, real beauty, is not found skin deep, but it's down deep within the heart of a person who fears the Lord. That the real thing to be attracted to is not how a person looks, but how a person lives. And these are things that you're not just teaching our children to be. It's not just that we're teaching our children to be selfless, to put others first, and we are, that in this home we put others first, that we're not just served, but we serve. You're not just here to be served, but you do serve. And for boys, you protect your mother and you protect your daughter, or you protect your sister, you protect the women in this home. They are gifts, they're valuable, and we use words. They are beautiful, they are special, they are precious. And for our daughters, that you are beautiful inside and out. And what's beautiful about you is not just your form, although God made you this way, but that your heart that you can treasure, the person that you become will be far more beautiful than anything that you look like in the future. To not just instill these in their life, that I want you to become this. Brethren, ultimately what we are teaching our children is not just to live this, but to desire this, to long for this. So that when it's their turn to look for a mate, when it's their turn to start dating, the things that attract them the most, the things that they admire the most, are not the external things that so often catch the eye, but it's been those features that have been instilled at home all along the way. people who love the Lord, people who love their family, people who honor and value one another and service and care for one another. We raise our children to give them in marriage. And then I would say we raise our children to give them to the world. And I know that may sound a little strange. Here's what I mean by giving them to the world. I mean we give our children to the world at large, to our neighbors and all those around us through our children's influence. It's at Matthew 5:16. Let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. That we're raising our children in such a way, not just that they know about God, but that they so know God and so love God, that who God is and who Christ is seen through them. And you think about it. I mean, I want you to think for a moment everywhere your kids will go this week. And maybe you got little kids, they're just staying home. Maybe we're still kind of quarantining. That's okay. Maybe just at home they can be a bright light. But think about all the places they will go, all the people that will see them at school, all the people that will see them at sports, all the people that will see them at the band recitals and the choir practices and all the people at the club meetings, all the people, all the little people, the souls that see them now and what they see out of kids who know God and fear God, because what they're showing them, they're showing the world kindness, what real kindness looks like. Kindness doesn't look at race. Kindness doesn't look at color. Kindness doesn't look at where you come from. Kindness is kindness, period. And our kids know that, and they demonstrate that. They're looking at service. I loved it. I don't know if you saw it the other day. There was this video floating around of a baseball game going on. And the kid caught the ball, and he was getting ready to tag out the runner, and then he stepped aside and let the runner go right on by. And then they let their next runner go right on by. That's such a sweetheart of service. I want to let you win. You can let that happen. I would far rather let them know about service and putting others first than winning a game. How about you? We teach them what it means to be gracious. Can you imagine what it would be like in the world for our kids to model grace today? Boy, some kid is real mean to them at school, and instead of welling up their fists and ready to swing back, they respond back with, "That's okay. I forgive you." I mean, the world doesn't see this today. They don't. Humility and kindness and mercy and love, real love. Brethren, we're showing the world Jesus. Our kids are showing the world Jesus, and that's part of the point. We raise our children and we realize they're not going to live at home forever. We say they're not going to live at home forever because we know they're going to go. And they're going to go to college and they're going to move. They may not end up here in Dallas, and they're going to go anywhere across this country, anywhere across this world. But while they are here under our care, what I want more than anything for my children is that when they leave and someone sees them, what is said of the apostles will be said of them, and that is, you know what? I can just tell they've spent some time with Jesus. When I see them and I see the way they speak and I see the way they live, when I see how respectful they are to those who are older than them, and they look at them and they talk to them and they're saying yes sir and no sir, and how they respect authority. When I see them when they get older in the workplace and they're not slacking off like everyone else, they're not out in the back on their iTunes, but they're working hard as soon as they're on the clock. When they're there at school and they're doing their hard work, wow, I see Jesus in them. I'm giving my children to the world. The world's not going to own them. But you know, Jesus said of his apostles, I'm not taking you out of this world. I'm leaving you in it. In the world, not of the world. Everywhere they go, there will be little lights of Jesus showing the world exactly what it is that they need to see. You know what hit me about this weekend? I said, this is exactly what our sister Glenna showed us, isn't it? She raised two incredible boys to become incredible men. Men of tremendous faith, who every time they speak or they teach or they lead, they just leave me breathless because of their wisdom and their humility. She raised two fine husbands, two excellent fathers. She raised two men who everywhere they go in their workplaces, especially here in this building, are bright lights. When I look at Eric and when I look at Kevin, I see a mother's sacrifice. I see a mother's hard work. I see a mother's faith. I look at Eric and I look at Kevin and I see the depth of a mother's love. She raised her boys to give them. And we are far better because of it. I read this week, it's called A Parent's Prayer. It's written years and years ago. It says, Oh, Heavenly Father, make me a better parent. Teach me to understand my children, to listen patiently to what they have to say, and to answer all their questions kindly. Keep me from interrupting them or contradicting them. Make me as courteous to them as I would have them be to me. Forbid that I should ever laugh at their mistakes or resort to shame or ridicule when they displease me. May I never punish them for my own selfish satisfaction or to show my power. Let me not tempt my child to lie or to steal. And guide me hour by hour that I may demonstrate by all that I say and do that honesty produces happiness. Reduce, I pray, the meanness in me. And when I'm out of sorts, help me, O Lord, to hold my tongue. May I never be mindful that my children are children. May I ever be mindful that my children are children, and I should not expect of them the judgment of adults. Let me not rob of them the opportunity to wait on themselves and to make their own decisions. Bless me with the bigness to grant them all their reasonable requests and the courage to deny them the privileges I know that will do them harm. Make me fair and just and kind, and fit me, O Lord, to be loved and respected and imitated by my children. Amen. I thought those are precious words. Each parent, I think each one of us in one way or another have asked of the Lord. It's a humbling endeavor, brethren, to be a parent. It's an amazing opportunity. It's an incredible responsibility. But as to think about those words, raised to give, I think about words we looked at real close last week. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. Now, whoever believes in Him will not perish, but will have eternal life. In many ways, moms and dads, we are simply doing what our Father has modeled for us. He so loved the world, He gave His Son. And if you're not in Jesus today, if you've not started your walk with Him, today is the day to do that. Today is the day to leave from your sins, to turn them behind, and to put on Christ in baptism and to be adopted into His family. And maybe if you're here and you're far from God, you're not walking with your King, today's the day to make that change. Maybe we can pray for you or help you. Maybe we can listen to you. Maybe we can help you in your journey and answer some questions. For all of our parents who are doing a great work, don't you dare stop. We go home today with a challenge on our mind. God gave His Son, and we are raising our children to honor and please Him and to give them in return. If we can help you in any way today, let's do it right now. Let's do it as we stand and as we sing.